Hi there guys, it's Anthony here from Cutting Edge Guitar. Today's lesson is another quick tip lesson for you. This one actually follows on quite nicely from the last one that I did, talking about an effective way to practice scales. Where last time we were talking about playing them all positionally, so you would go from playing, say, a Ionian into a Dorian, Phrygian, and so on. This time I want to talk about doing the same thing but playing the scales in a linear fashion. So why that's really important is that the guitar, when you look at it as an instrument, the single string approach, playing along the length of strings, is actually a really overlooked element of playing our instrument. Okay, now when you're learning a scale, it's actually easier to see a scale formula or its pattern of tones and semitones in a straight line than it is across a position. For example, if I play the A major scale in position and I'm seeing tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, it's easy to see the tone, tone, but then the semitone here is on adjacent strings, rather than if I see it in a line, if I start either on the 6th string and do tone, tone, semitone, I can see the difference, of course, in that a tone is 2 frets and the semitone between the major third and the perfect fourth is just 1 fret. Now, generally speaking, if we do all of this on the high E string, unless if we do this with modes of the major scale, you'll see their patterns of tones and semitones changing, and you'll also see the formula working in a line. Now, if you do that on the high E string, what you can also do is you can give yourself a low bass drone note on your A string. So I've now got a bass tone in the background that I can play against. Now, of course, on my channel I've uploaded something called a drone track, which is actually got, it's a bass line with drums and all that sort of stuff, so it feels like you're playing along to a piece of music. That is an ideal way to practice this, but if you want to do it just you and your guitar, you can just play that open A string and then play all of the scales along the high E string, or any other string for that matter, as long as it's higher than your bass note. You can do it in different keys as well, so if you wanted to play your open E string and then look at playing E scales, so for example I've just played E Mixolydian there. So you can play it against your E. Generally speaking, I tend to learn everything in the key of A, and I do so with my students as well, because as guitar players, most people's reference or starting point with scales is A minor pentatonic. So the key of A is something that you're already familiar with, so I like to teach things so that I can go, right, that thing that you already know, let's manipulate that or add notes to it or do whatever we need to do to change it into this new thing that we're going to learn. It makes the learning process of something new actually a little bit easier, because instead of going, here is something completely new, you're going, oh, here's a framework that we've got and we're going to build upon it. Okay, so that's why I tend to do most of the things in the key of A. Where we're obviously going with this though, we're not looking at a positional approach. As I say, we're looking at doing everything along the length of a string. Now you can do this in any scale, in any key, but generally speaking, the first place that you might want to start would be with the modes of the major scale. So when we map that out, let's do it in terms of formula. So the major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now that's where these notes live on the length of a string. So if A is my root, a major second is a tone above, a major third is a tone above that, the perfect fourth is a semitone above the third, the perfect fifth is a tone above the fourth, the major 6 is a tone above the fifth, the major 7 is a tone above the 6th, and then we're back to our root note. So you can either see that as tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, if you want to, or how I like to do it formulaically is to number these notes as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. Back to the 1 or the octave, the root note. So now any of the other modes that you want to look at are just manipulating that format. So if we look at the Dorian mode, that's got a flat 3 and a flat 7. So now what we need to do to play the A Dorian mode is go 1, 2, flat 3, because 3 was here. So we've got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, because 7 was here. Okay, so there's our A Dorian mode. The Phrygian mode is flat 2, flat 3, flat 6 and flat 7. Quite a lot of alterations for the Phrygian mode. So now that would come out as 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Again, if I'm playing that over my bass, it's actually easier to hear the sound and the characteristics of the mode. Okay, moving on from Phrygian into Lydian, that's the same thing as the major scale but with a sharpened fourth. Okay, so with a sharp 4 we'd have 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, Mixolydian, that's the same as the major scale but with flat 7, so this time we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. As we're going through all of these different modes here, hopefully you'll start to hear the characteristic different sounds between them. Aeolian, the natural minor scale, that one is flat 3, flat 6 and flat 7. So we've got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And last but not least, the Locrian mode, which is everything altered, everything flattened except the fourth. So we've got 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. So mapping your scales this way is a really nice way to view them on the fretboard so that you can see that pattern of tones and semitones and the formulas changing, and obviously playing them over your bass line or of course the drone track is a really good way of hearing the differences. Okay, that's it for today's quick tip. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson, guys. Make sure you subscribe so that you'll get more of these lessons, and hit the bell notification so that every time that I do one you'll be notified of it. Okay, thanks very much for listening, guys, and I'll see you in the next lesson.